One of Luceo's most popular features is using assists during games for coaches to improve their team's timeout effectiveness. Whether they're showing animations they've already drawn up, they're using a free draw whiteboard, or they're using the digital whiteboard tools to make it really easy for players to follow along, coaches have used tons of different ways to make the most out of the app and again, improve their players' recognition and effectiveness executing coming out of a timeout. In this video, I'm going to show you those different ways so that you can figure out how to make the most of it for your team and your coaching style. Regardless of how you use the app though, anytime you use an iPad during a game, you're going to want to make sure to put it into airplane mode, put it into do not disturb, and then make sure that you've got the orientation locked. To do that, you go up to the upper right corner and just pull down. Tap this button to go into airplane mode, tap this button to turn off your notifications, and then tap this button to lock your orientation. This will make it so you have a smooth experience when you're sitting in the huddle and nothing unexpected will happen. All right, so the first thing about using this in a timeout is building an actual timeout menu. Some coaches call it a game menu or a game card. The idea is that you want to have a visual, easy-to-use menu that makes it really easy to simplify decision-making and find the play you want in a huddle. We've seen game cards and game menus set up tons of different ways, from having your entire playbook sorted into situations, to picking out 10, 20, 30 of your favorite plays, to having just 5 to 10 go-to plays, and then having one chapter for every game or opponent you're facing. Again, there's no right or wrong way to do this. The easiest way is to adapt how you kind of prepare for your timeouts right now, and then put it into Luceo, again, in this visual game card menu. So I'm going to go into a section here. Actually, I'm going to go back into our out of bounds. So I'm going to review a couple of the different options and ways that coaches kind of get ready to set up their iPad here. If you have your videos visible, oftentimes they're going to hide this. That way it makes the court as big as possible. Also, they'll hit this button to get rid of the side menu, again, trying to get as much room for the court diagram as you can. Now, using the options above, coaches will usually have this set up to their favorite settings, so you're only doing it once and it remembers it every time. Those settings are either having the wood grain or a white background. Usually, coaches want to have this 1x1, so it's only ever showing the first frame. Again, making that first frame as big as possible. This bench and label override button, if I reset it here, changes everything from a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to letting you pull in your player roster so that it does label overrides. This position focus is whether or not you want to emphasize any player's actions or if you want to keep every line as you originally drew it. Now, one of the biggest things that coaches will do is they set it up so they've got all their player initials. Then as players are coming in and out of the game, usually an assistant is holding onto the iPad and they just tap on one of these player tokens and then you can quickly sub in and out who's in the game. They'll also have it set up so you have flip labels on. This turns everybody's name upside down. Now imagine you're holding your iPad like this, like it's a whiteboard and you're drawing, and then you turn it over for your players to see. From there, you just take your finger and you're sliding along the animation slider here, and it's on top of the iPad, so you're not reaching your arm over it or going around underneath it. It's really easy to play this back and forth, and your players can follow it with their initials upright. Most coaches will grab the slider so they can talk and coach over it, and you'll see a ton of times that players have a lot more engagement. Instead of just being like, all right, coach, and walking onto the court, they'll ask you to run that back one more time. Or, hey, coach, let me see that again. And at any point, you could tap on a player and put them in focus, and that way it's even easier for them to follow their own actions. Now, as this animation's going, you can also draw on top of it. To do that, if you have an Apple Pencil, just double tap, and it's going to pause it, and then you can quickly draw and mark up on top of this. If you don't have an Apple Pencil, you can just use this marker icon in the top, and then whenever you stop it, it's going to resume the animation. Now, this works the exact same way as if you wanted to show a video clip. Depending on your league's rules, if you're allowed to use video during the game on the bench, you can pull up your video clips,
to what's going on, and it's not a shooting.
double tap, with an Apple Pencil or hit this marker, and it'll pause it, and then there you can go and draw on top of it.
Like one of those made these playoff games.
All right, that's everything for how coaches use it when they have their playbook pre-drawn. What I'll show you now is that sometimes even in the middle of the game, a coach will just want to free draw a new play, but still wants to save it for later. To do that, you hit this whiteboard icon up in the top right. Now, the whiteboard has two different drawing modes. You'll see that this toggle is off right now, meaning that you're in a mode where you can put player pucks on, you can tap a puck, put label overrides with your player initials, but when you're drawing lines, it looks like a marker. Now, everything you're drawing will automatically get saved back into your library, and it'll go into a whiteboard book and a chapter with your name so that you can go back and reanimate it later. The other option is using Luceo's predictive drawing. Now, when you're drawing live with an audience, oftentimes coaches are going to turn on these two options, huddle mode and magnet mode. And then they'll also turn on the large pucks. Now, the combinations of these modes make it so that you grab a player puck, drag it, and it's going to draw a tail for that player's actions. Huddle mode's making it so that you're only ever showing two lines, so that your board never gets busy. But under the hood, I can still grab my animation slider, and I can play my entire play animation as if I had drawn it normally. So this way, I can draw live. Players can be following the magnet board feel and pucks, which are easier to follow than an arrow line for most people. And at the same time, when they ask you, hey, coach, let me see that again, you can just quickly scrub back and forth and show all those hidden lines. So again, when you're using this during a game, it starts with an organization of having your play calls and your play menu set up with everything you've already pre-drawn. But even when you want to draw something new on the fly, you just use the whiteboard icon, you turn on your huddle, magnet, and large puck modes, and you can draw a new play in a way that's really easy for your team to follow. We've heard countless feedback from players who find this easier to use. We've had a bunch of success stories in the NBA and the G League where teams' effectiveness have jumped from near the bottom of the league to the top, where coaches feel more comfortable easily finding a play and wanting to explain something in pressure situations. Any way you use Luceo, your team is bound to benefit when you're using this during a games.